I don't know how a brand can survive if anyone with any following is treat you like you're Bill Cosby or something.
I hate when people do this because I've seen so many content creators who are accused of something, refuse to actually talk about the thing that people take issue with, and instead they just go right to like, I literally haven't tried to eat another person. I've not done that. I've never, sexually assaulted someone. People are treating me like, some kind of monster. Well, all you're doing is you're trying to escape actually bringing up the thing that people have concerns with. Apparently, the H3H3 podcast numbers are doing very poorly right now, and Ethan Klein is claiming that he might be leaving again.
I don't talk about this because it's painful and I don't want people to know. But I'll say, from a professional perspective, our entire lives are ruined. Collaborations, partners, business partners, employees, creators, friends. Brittany Broski just completely stopped responding to me.
Why don't you stop is the part I don't get. Like, I can't imagine going down a pathway for like what it's been years now of his obsession with Hassan, where everyone was telling him like, why don't you just stop? Like, this is a really weird one-sided obsession. Do you remember when they were debating and Hassan had to actually show him how often he posts Instagram stories about him? And like, if you look at the numbers, it's like Hassan talked about you like 5 times during the course of the year. You've made an Instagram story about him every single day, if not twice to 3 times a day. For like a solid year running. Again, talking about one-sided beefs, it's just so unusual.
You get the same kind of harassment that we've been getting for the last 2 years, 2+.
It's even worse. You become a target.
What did he do to ruin his career? I mean, effectively, he did, I would say, during the second wave of the Black Lives Matter protests, a really good thing, which is that you don't normally see people who were massive pieces of shit online for a long time, who did a lot of racism, who were like constantly saying the N-word and shit like that, come forward and actually have like, some self-reflection and state that like, I got to be honest with you, I didn't realize how bad things were for Black Americans. I didn't realize things like my own privilege. I've never had to have a talk with my kids about like whether or not they'd be shot by the cops. So like I didn't know a lot about this, and the more I learned, the more I realized I have to say something about it. And then honestly stopped having Jordan Peterson on his show, stopped like platforming a fuck ton of like these weird right wingers and all these pieces of shit, and honestly he started to better himself, and everyone was like, holy shit, like this is a model that more people should emulate. Like I'm not someone who just perpetually wants to be like a hall monitor and be like, hey, here's another example of a person doing a racism, we got him, haha, cancel, begin the cancel culture, as if I had like some kind of power to do that. I would way rather that a lot of big names, and especially big, even the right wingers, eventually started doing restorative justice. It's a bigger benefit. Like I said this so many times, it would be so much better for the world if tomorrow J.K. Rowling woke up, cleaned the mold off the walls, started realizing how much damage she's done to society, how much she's been spending, millions of dollars to make trans kids' lives scarier, and actively work to try and better the planet. That would be a net benefit. I wouldn't be like, no, she's not allowed to. We have to close the doors. I haven't purity tested her enough. She hasn't made the quota. Blah, blah, blah. No, it would be a net benefit to society writ large if she wasn't this massive anti-LGBTQ plus fucking piece of shit. And so yeah, I don't think if she just overnight was like, oh, bippity boppity, I hath made a mistake, that would be enough. Like, you've got a lot of restorative justice to do. You've got a lot to fucking undo in terms of the damage you've done. But still, it would be a charting course towards something positive. So I was really on board for Ethan Klein and H3H3 to start actually taking accountability and trying to better themselves. And it was rocky for a while. Like I going through that process, you could definitely see there were moments in time where like he wouldn't exactly know how to navigate certain spaces. He would still like, he hasn't unpacked his homophobia. When he would talk about certain issues, he didn't know that like, if you're just straight up, making jokes about like dudes eating poo and like who's the bottom and who's the twink and shit like that as a straight guy, like, that shit doesn't fly. Like, you you should actually learn some more. But he would listen, and he would have fans who would call in, and a gay fan would call in and be like, hey, just by the way, so it's kind of fucked up for you to talk this way. It spreads a lot of negative stereotypes about gay guys, and he would listen to it. And then it kept going to a point where him and Hassan formed a friendship. They ended up forming a show together, The Leftovers, for anyone who doesn't know. And then it would basically be he kind of positions himself as a center-left social democrat, and he's doing a show with a lefty, which was very obvious from the start, by the way. The whole I had no idea that I was actually engaging with a radical leftist, but that went on for a long time until October 7th. And October 7th, it really seemed like it was a moment in history that made a lot of people, especially the progressive except for Palestine crowd, overnight really suddenly splinter, I would say, in two. A lot of people who otherwise were completely fine being like, I support Democrats, I'm a feminist, I'm for women's reproductive health, I'm with her, blue no matter who, blue wave types. They couldn't really all of a sudden accept the fact that we should also humanize Palestinians, in the same way that a lot of people to this day won't humanize Somalians, or they won't humanize people from Afghanistan, or they are completely fine with I am okay with talking about how we should liberate people domestically. I am for say queer rights to a point. Once we start talking about bathrooms or sports, that's where it gets complex for me. But in terms of the damage the United States does around the world, I don't really want to accept that, because I bought into this weird kind of idea that people from those other countries, especially countries that are dominated, that have Muslim majorities, for example, that they are fundamentally evil, and it's important for the United States to be able to police them and make sure that we prevent them from potentially becoming terrorists and doing a terrorism or whatever dehumanization or stuff that they bought into, the Sam Harris of it all kind of shit. It got to that breaking point for a lot of folk, and there were some people who just couldn't take it upon themselves to realize for the longest time the amount of atrocities that Israel was committing to Palestinians, and then whether it was them defending a hospital getting bombed for the longest time, or them defending a bunch of war crimes, or the mass starvation, or the forced starvation, or the pumping of sewage into the water systems, or the bombing of hospitals, children's hospitals, orphanages, all of this. It just went on and on and on. And for some people, it did get to a point where they're like, okay, look, I got to admit, while I have been, a very strong supporter of the U.S.-Israeli relationship, this is getting a bit far. And some people have started to try and learn more and undo some of the damage and become better people in that respect. But other folk have decided to take on this personal battle. And what Ethan did was he decided to have this really long-lasting, one-sided, I'm now going to consistently attack Hassan and Hassanabi, the Hassanabi channel, and Hassan, who I now see as a enemy, a destructive force for society. He is pro-terrorism. He is platforming terrorists. He is, advocating for anti-U.S. agendas, all this kind of stuff. And it just it continued going, and it was really just one-sided, because I felt personally, as someone who was just watching from the sidelines here, Hassan ignored it for a really long time. More so than most people would, because the H3H3 podcast is still massive, despite the dwindling numbers and all that kind of stuff now. But it was usually just a one-sided thing where he would be like, I'm just trying to bait you. I'm trying to bait you. And eventually he did take some of the bait. He did some pushback, and that led to even more antagonism, which led to a little bit more pushback, which led to him getting to that point where he's like, I have to make a content nuke. I have to make the truth. The world has to see it. This used to be a time-honored tradition for YouTube. Back in the day, I would take a figure, say like the Quartering or Keemstar, people who are horrible, and in my eyes, Hassan is now just as horrible, and I'm going to do a long-form documentary where I take a whole bunch of clips and evidence, and I put it together and collaborate it so the whole world can see how evil he is. And that's a lot easier when you're doing it towards someone like the Quartering, who is a massive and monstrous piece of shit and has a long history of being a homophobe, a transphobe, of being a fucking, white supremacist, absolute monster. You can do a really good job, as he did, taking down the Quartering. Or if it's someone like Keemstar, again, the absolute cockroach of the internet, you can do a really good job taking those pieces of shit down. The way he tried to take down Hassan was so bad that the whole thing just kind of backfired and blew up in his face. It was like a self nuke. Most of the people watching it were just like, wait, what the fuck? You were doing a show for over a year with a guy who you are just finding out now was a leftist? That's the premise? As in, like, you thought you guys were both on the same side, but it's only now that you're starting to realize, oh my God, he was a secret leftist all along, and you called the show The Leftovers. Hassan's views have never been like a power levels hiding type thing. He's quite clear and vocal and loud and famous for being one of the biggest, I would say, media figures on the internet who is left leaning. Like that's not a secret at all. Like what are we doing here? This thing is so clown shoes. And then it went on to all the same kind of like, very DGG, Destiny, Dan Saltman style conspiracy theories. Like the guy is a terrorist. He is a terrorist supporter. He's trying to promote terrorism on Twitch. Twitch only allows it because they love him. And then, the leader of the CEO, Dan Clancy, has an obsession with Hassan. And because they're in love with him so much because of his good looks or whatever, they're unable to actually police him when he's doing so many horrifying things. And at the same time, he was doing all this while like Hassan was doing like a fundraiser. He was raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for Palestinian children. The whole thing was just like so mixed, and there's an entire ecosystem on the internet of people who just produce anti-Hassan content because they've always hated him, and they hate him for a whole bunch of reasons. It doesn't matter if they think that he's anti-American, doesn't matter if they think that he's if he's Muslim, if he's a little too pro-anti-imperialism for them, or that he's all the way to that he's an actual terrorist, right? Like that whole side of the internet, there's an entire drama slop fucking factories churning out video after video after video after video. And obviously the stuff that Ethan Klein started producing was directly appealing to them because they were like, oh sweet, we have another really big figure, H3H3, the H3 podcast. He's now producing content on Hassan. So now we have like more mainstream content. It's just not like, the gross drama slop side of the internet. And obviously this was all being done as like, it's being pitched as drama, but the underlying current of the entire thing is an actual genocide taking place, broadcast into our lives in 4K, that is fucking with all of our brains every day for the last couple of years, especially if you're someone who covers the news or you're even mildly tapped into politics. You've seen something, or you've had to hear of something, or you've had to look at some point. You've had to wake up in the morning, and I can't tell you how many times, like the first thing you do when you start looking at the news is just break into tears at how horrifying humanity can be to one another. Like it was absolutely gut-wrenching, and it wasn't like some conspiracy on TikTok the way that like a lot of people like Barry Weiss are selling it as, to turn people anti-Semitic. It was seeing war crimes every day that was turning people against Israel, the nation state. That's what was happening. And if you are framing this whole thing as like, well, this is drama, and it's just me versus my ex-co-host, and we're doing drama. Well, underneath all of that is a lot of people who are, I would say, justifiably getting also reviled by the fact that their favorite, YouTuber, entertainer, and all this kind of stuff is kind of trying to collide these two things, both speaking about the genocide of Palestinians, while he has himself, avowed that he is against the genocide, and also trying to normalize aspects of what Israel is doing, saying that, oh, people haven't been to Israel proper. If you were to visit Israel proper, you can see how beautiful it is, what a multicultural society it is. We only see this one side in the media nowadays, and that's what I want to change your minds of. I'm even considering taking a trip there so I can show all of you. That all is combining into, obviously, them absolutely bleeding supporters, and like he's doing all this while at the same time associating himself, and as you can see right in the background here, redact.dev is the official sponsor of his slurs button. That's the company run by Dan Saltman, one of the co-hosts / best friends of Destiny, who have been actively not only trying to destroy Hassan's career, but also pushing consistently a lot of the pro-Zionist propaganda online. And so people are obviously associating all these things together. It gets to a point now where, H3H3 has been absolutely tanking, cratering, because people don't want anything to do with it anymore. And while that's all happening simultaneously, he at one point I think tried to change course not too long ago, where he did that whole video like, what have I done wrong, or like, I want to apologize. I know he joined TikTok to try and set the record straight that he's obviously done some bad things in the past, but now it's like he can't ever stop, it feels. Like you could point out like this has gotten to a point where it's like it's beyond unhealthy. And it's like it's an obsession, and it's like it's all consuming, and you keep thinking there's going to be like a turning point where at a certain point people en masse are just going to wake up and then realize you were right all along, and that Hassan really is a scary terrorist, and you know that everything that he's been advocating for all these years was malicious and evil, and everyone's going to see the light and come to your side when like the majority of the world is waking up to the horrors of colonialization, of Zionism, of imperialism, of all these benefits that we have in the West. What are the costs and what do they come? Like, why exactly are we consistently living in a world where our politicians are completely fine supporting regimes and doing crimes that we find abhorrent? And this rejection, I think, is not just playing out for H3H3. It's playing out generally for a lot of modern politics, whether it be the liberals in Canada who cannot, no matter how much pressure is applied to them, separate themselves from Israel. The same thing with a lot of centrist Democrats in the United States who, no matter how much pressure is applied to them or how much the public sentiment has turned on this, or how you cannot keep ignoring the fact that people at on some level are unable to support a political party or candidate that are going to support genocide. They can't seem to make that split. Well, they're unable to actually, recognize that's the way the world is, in a lot of ways, especially in Western society, is transforming in real time. Same with labor in the UK. And so, like at a certain point, it's either you keep making these kind of pleas for help where it's like, everything's falling apart. My show's falling apart. My clothing brand, people are refusing to work with it. Models are refusing to work with it. No one wants to be a part of Teddy Fresh anymore. Especially because the associations with my wife and the IDF and all of that aspect of it too. Like, instead of actually, going down the accountability road or the I was wrong road or the I want to do the restorative justice thing, it's just like any other day when a new story comes out, he just jumps on that. Right, like, oh, there's a new Hassan story that came out today. All right, yeah, what happened? Oh, apparently, he was in China and broadcasting, and his broadcast went down, and it's because maybe China's not as great as he thinks. That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a one-time thing.
Good to see you.
Right? Like you enter the universe of people who have remained friends with them. But yeah, I mean, like we had a shoe collaboration we were working on for a long time, back and forth. It came out beautifully. It was so great. It was a small shoe company.
The shoes were already made.
Yeah, they were done. They were basically a week from release.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting because they were really high quality, nice shoes. And a week before the release, the owner calls us and says, "Hey, listen, basically we can't do the collab." I have like two store owners who said two managers who said they'll quit if we drop the shoe because you're Zionist or something. And his thing was like, listen, I don't know what it's about. And like, they're apologetic, right? But at the same time, we're not doing that collab, right? But we're not answering our email. That's why Elo wanted to quit. How the fuck are you supposed to grow a business and, participate in this space? I feel like serial rapists and murderers get treated the same way.
Does he have Tourette's? Yeah, he does. Chad, anyone like mocking him for his Tourette's will get banned from the stream. So don't mock someone with Tourette's. There's enough vile things that Ethan Klein says just on his own that you can go after.
Okay.
Like I know people that worked on somebody like James Charles' shoot, and they're treating me the same way.
Yeah, I didn't say that you were.
I don't think he gets treated as badly.
Putting a warning out there for anyone who would think about it.
I think people have moved on. I think people are fine with James Charles now. It's truly mad. That's what it feels like. It feels like I fucking raped or murdered someone, right? And I got away with it. That's what it feels like, and that's how people talk about us. They said they'll quit their job if they go through with the collaboration. But then also pinning a post of them with Trisha. I mean, this is a separate thing, but the same type of person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
By the way, he's also always playing the victim. I would highly recommend checking out the YouTube channel Overzealots, who basically, like, statement by statement breaks down all the different forms of, say, liberal Zionism or Zionism apologetics from people who will, like, pretend that they care, like the two sides kind of strategy, right? Where it's like, oh, I care about two-state solution. Both sides have done obviously some horrifying things, and I don't want anyone to suffer, and keeping it basically like everything is equal in all ways. And then, like, when you get down to its core of that philosophy, it's like, there's one side that is not only, committing all of these war crimes, atrocities, and genociding the people of the other nation, but they are the ones doing the colonialism, even prior to October 7th, right? Like, the Gaza Strip was a open-air prison where all of the food, all of the resources were completely controlled by Israel as terms of, like, what can enter, what can exit, doing straight-up, like, calorie counting. This is something that, like, obviously the eyes of the world had just been ignoring in large part, up until the point where, every now and then there would be missiles fired by Hamas into Israel. They would most likely be intercepted, and then Israel would do a very violent and deadly bombing campaign of people in Gaza, and then there would be international outrage, and then eventually there would be a ceasefire, and the cycle would just continue perpetually. Well, at the same time, in the West Bank, there would be more and more illegal territory basically taken by settlers as people are getting kicked out of their homes and their houses are being bulldozed. And not only does the West stay silent on it, but they are complicit, like all of our nations, every Western nation who continues to arm, to sell arms, to fund Israel as they're doing this. This is why at this point, now that more people have finally recognized what's going on, they're finally speaking out about it, and they're finally saying, like, I don't want to be, or I don't want to support any kind of government, or a government that's trying to form, or a politician that is continuing to participate in this.
yes, again, I'm not talking about it because what's the fucking point? But slowly over the years, it's gotten to the point where worse and worse, more partners, more sponsors, more friends,
I mean, there are people that enjoy working with us, but even since this happened, they explained to me on Instagram that they're scared to be tagged in our stuff because of the harassment that they get, and they're like, listen, I'm not mentally stable enough to handle all this. Like, I'd rather just not, because it's too scary. So yeah.
And so, like, this is kind of the space that we've been existing in mentally. And then when Hila does this photo shoot, and 3 of the 6 people immediately are like, I denounce and erase and, fuck the owner who supports genocide and supports Israel, whatever that means. It just feels like...
Also, trying to get people to do this show with me was not easy.
Right.
I had a few people in mind already that I've worked with before, and I thought, oh, we'll definitely shoot this together. We talked about it before. And when it was time to do it...
yeah, like, zero self-reflection. It's like, well, why do you think that is? Why is everyone suddenly refusing to work with you?
Seriously, why? I mean, can somebody answer why is it okay that she works with Trisha but has to denounce us? Why is that?
Some may deem it interesting.
It is interesting.
Hey, a lot of glots. Everyone take a lot of glots.
Some may deem it interesting, yeah.
Possibly.
I don't understand how Trisha gets a pass. She was tap dancing for Israel less than 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
But did she change as a person? Because there's lots of people who had really, really bad takes on a lot of different issues who have kind of changed as people. I don't know enough about Trisha to state that. I'm just asking, right? Because it's one of those things like, why do people want to work with this person, but they won't work with us? Why are we bad?
And I guess that's basically, I don't
Trisha doesn't get a pass. You guys are both bad. All right, fair enough.
know if there's more to say about it. But, like, I mean, the fate of this...
Hey, Peace right now is here too. Man, everyone's watching the stream right now. The day we never get to hear from them again can't come soon enough. Everyone check out Peace Fire's Now's channel too.
A lot of people are receiving the makeup, and I'm seeing that everybody's loving it, which I knew they would. And I'm very happy, but I don't know how a brand can survive if anyone with any following is treat you like you're Bill Cosby or something, or like Chris D'Elia.
I hate when people do this, because I've seen so many content creators who are accused of something, refuse to actually talk about the thing that people take issue with, and instead they just go right to like, I literally haven't tried to eat another person. I've not done that. I've never, sexually assaulted someone. People are treating me like, some kind of monster. Well, all you're doing is you're trying to escape actually bringing up the thing that people have concerns with. Right, like I'm seeing the same thing right now with what is it, Megyn Kelly trying to downplay Nick Fuentes with Tucker Carlson, and obviously these are two totally different situations. I'm not comparing these two people or comparing their stories, but I'm just saying Megyn Kelly was like sitting there being like, Nick Fuentes, he's never tried to eat anybody. He's not a cannibal. I mean, last I checked, and it's like, what does that have to do with anything? Wait, sorry, is your bar cannibalism and then it's okay if he's a Nazi, right? Like, it's kind of like, why don't we actually address the things that people have issues with? The fact that he's an anti-Semitic piece of shit, he's a racist, he's pro-Hitler. That's what you should be addressing, not the thing that, like, obviously no one has accused him of. And, obviously, like, that's not a part of this.
I didn't even do anything. Right? I didn't do anything. So that's what that is. That's why Hila wanted to quit everything. I thought you were just talking. I don't know. You want to talk about it?
Well, yeah, Ethan was like, I guess it was like, what, like Teddy Fresh, like, and I was like, no, everything.
She's like, the podcast, and I was like, no.
Also,
that's the only reason anyone supports us, man. Without the podcast, I'd be fucking.
But also, the more I thought about it, I was like, I want to quit when I want to quit and when I make that decision, not because people are pushing.
Isn't he still suing the other streamers? He is. Like, that's the other part of the story. Right now, you are like financially ruining the lives, or trying to anyway, of multiple women. Denims, Frogan, Casey Tron. For things that you've openly stated were being done by other streamers like Asmongold. And again, it's one of those things like, I assume Denims is going to have enough money to take this all the way to court where, I'm not a lawyer, I can't offer you legal advice, but it's absolutely ridiculous to claim that you have the copyright to a video you made, the Hassan content nuke, that has an endless amount of sourced clips from other third parties, including a lot of footage from Hassan himself, none of which is labeled. Right? Like, in terms of fair use, yes, you're completely allowed to use someone else's copyright material if you're transforming it, and the fair use or fair dealing in Canada, specifications are going to be different depending on, it's a case-by-case basis kind of a thing. But at the very least, you have to label where you're sourcing your clips from, right? If you're putting out a documentary, like you might have seen that recent video I just put out on Asmongold, like a documentary on his rise and stardom. I made sure to label every single clip. Where was it from? What was the year that it was aired? What stream did it come from? Because I'm scared shitless of a person who's rich and powerful like Asmongold suing the fuck out of me. Which, you can find any angle you want from these kind of people, but eventually, if it comes down to that, if that video got big enough and he hated it enough and he wanted to silence me, rich people can do that. They can try and get rid of their critics by doing frivolous lawsuits. And yes, that's why things like Slap exist, but it's still something that's going to be prohibitively expensive for Frogan. It's still going to be prohibitively expensive for Casey Tron. Casey Tron has already come forward multiple times to talk about how hard it's been on her financially, and that she basically entirely supports herself through streaming, and that's her primary source of income. And it's helped her escape poverty. It's helped her leave a very poor upbringing. It's helped her take care of her father. It's one of those situations where now she's really going to be in a very difficult situation because she's having this lawsuit placed upon her, one in which I think Ethan is hoping they won't be able to afford lawyers to go the distance to, and will just settle out of court. And that's a really fucked up thing. Again, for doing things that other people were doing, that they openly admitted that, like, yeah, well, Asmongold watched my stream, but I'm not going to sue him, or I watched my video, but I'm not going to sue him. They were also just openly broadcasting the video on Twitch, so that if someone was on Twitch and streaming and they were scrolling through channels, if you clicked on the H3H2 channel, you would have ended up streaming that video on your stream, that kind of stuff. He's also suing them for a wild amount of money. When max, he lost like 50k views, which is like $2,500 on YouTube. I mean, at the end of the day, more important than anything, what it would come down to is, does he own the original copyright to that video to be able to sue people that they were infringing upon his copyright? It's not simply that, like, you know, I make a YouTube video, I post a YouTube video, and then after I post it, if anyone else watches my YouTube video, I'm losing X amount of dollars and cents in the views that go down because you watched it on your stream instead of watching it through my YouTube video. It's, did I have the original copyright to upload that video in the first place? Because if I just uploaded a Marvel video and then I started trying to sue people for, like, you know, watching that Marvel video, I have no grounds. You know, I have absolutely no grounds to say that that was my copyright. And considering that Content Nuke was so filled of other people's content, that's the part of it that makes me go like, I'm suspicious. One other thing, I only saw this the other day, someone emailed it to me, but I didn't know that Hassan called out the Free Press to their faces, which is so awesome.
Yeah, I know who you are.
Oh, okay.
I've seen your work on denying the Gaza famine.
Oh, how are you doing?
This here is such a core example that I've talked about, where people behind the scenes, like, holy fuck, are they ever fake? I'm not gonna, like, obviously I don't leak DMs, so I'm not gonna, like, you know, spill dirt, but I've had, like, fucking right-wing pieces of shit who ask me, like, just flat out, like, why do you think that, like, we wouldn't be able to be friends in real life or shit like that? Or, like, you know, why don't you think we'll be able to make content together that isn't, like, in a debate format or something like that? Or, you know, this never happened to me, just to be completely clear. I was not invited to poker with the boys, but the fact that, like, Tim Pool's just expecting, you know, what's her face from the Majority Report? Well, Emma Vigland to come for sushi and poker with the boys. Like, that's so weird. It's like when the lights turn off and the camera's off, all of a sudden we're all besties. We're oh, hey, it's a job. I clock out at the fucking, you know, and to me, I'm like, you're fucking gross. I don't want to be friends with you or see you in real life, though. I know what your views are. Like, wait, what are we doing here? I take this maybe, I don't know, a little bit more personally or seriously, that, yeah, the things that I advocate for on the show, I want to see happen in real life. I would like there to be an end to unjust hierarchies. I would like to, you know, see more people have democracy in the workplace, see more socialism enacted, that kind of shit. I would like to see more racists get fucked up. I don't think that it's like, as soon as the cameras are off, I'm like, well, you know, I'm a right-winger now. I believe in nothing kind of shit. It's so fucked up. But then you could just see, like, people who obviously would probably make 50 plus videos about how Hassan is a terrorist or he's a piece of shit or he's a champagne socialist or anything like that. But when they see him in person, it's like, hey, good to see ya. Do you know who I am? It's like, yeah, I know who you are. You're the ones that made propaganda about kids starving in Gaza. That was really fucked up of you.
You did do that, though.
Okay, well, anyway, I would love to profile you. You know who I am?
For the Free Press? You already have profiled me.
Sorry, I'm blocking it, but if you can't see it, yeah, it's her.
You called me the handsome face of terror apologia. Not you, but your outlet did. Which, by the way, I did not have an issue with at all because they used a handsome photo, so it was cool.
Well, anyway.
I literally, I put that article on as one of my favorite articles anytime someone asks.
I love how familiar you are.
Like, it's all so fake. Like, yeah, she's the one that made that fucking disgusting, I will not use that word lightly here, revolting, disgusting ass propaganda video about how the children in Gaza, well, I don't know if you know this, but they actually, some of them have pre-existing conditions. So when you see those, you know, malnourished children's and the child skeletons on the New York Times, are you actually seeing kids who are really, really sick and dying from the starvation? Or is it because they, again, had pre-existing conditions? And it's like, what's the fucking gotcha here, you sick piece of shit? Kids with pre-existing conditions also need food to live. So it like, this is one of the most revolting fucking, and it's not just her, obviously, multiple people did that, but like, it's just so weird that you would just show up and be like, Hassan, how's it going? So good to see you. It's like, oh, sorry, but we're all friends now.
I'm a media demon. Of course I'm familiar with the Free Press. I do media. No, I'm not a free presser. I do media criticism as a part of my job. So of course I'm familiar with the Free Press. What?
I just heard a lot of love for this.
Yeah, only for that one specific article. But
Okay, well, anyway.
nice to meet you.
Okay.
How you doing?
It's I'm very
And that's like not the first time I've seen this too. You know, I've experienced this firsthand, where like you meet people who IRL, they're like all of a sudden they're very nice to you, or in DMs they'll be very nice to you, and part of me is always just thinking, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you serious? Do you just clock out at the end of the day and then like you're like, oh, I can't wait to meet Hassan. Look, it's Hassanabi. Yeah, so I can't wait to do a fucking 15-part hit piece on this guy next week.
Thank you so much to our patrons for making this show possible. We could not fund it without you. And if you want to join, please check out patreon.com/theserfs to unlock bonus episodes, uncensored content, and all the good stuff. Thanks to Anna Loves Riley, Addercap, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hegbard Salim, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet One 85, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, Tigwick, and Words Greenwood.